Hi guys, Deanne here from Canada Abroad, and thanks so much for tuning in. Today I'm just going to be answering one of the questions that we have been getting most often lately, and that is whether or not you can retire in Canada. So many people are coming to us saying, we have enough money to support ourselves, we don't need to work, we don't need to go into the Canadian medical system, we just want to come and live in Canada. At this time, there is no retirement visa. So there's no visa that lets you move to Canada and be retired. So the only options that exist, the first one is you can always visit Canada for 6 months out of a 12-month period. You have the option if you want, and you can apply for a visitor record from within Canada. You can ask to extend your stay past the 6 months, but you will have to prove that you can sustain yourself while in Canada without engaging in the labor market. And it will be at an officer's discretion whether they approve that extension or not. But keep in mind, this is just visitor status. It doesn't give you permanent residency or citizenship to Canada. It's just a way that you can hang out in Canada. It applies also to digital nomads, so people who work remotely. The employment is staying outside of Canada, no Canadian clients. They get the same 6 months and they can always apply for an extension. But it's not meant as a permanent solution for people wishing to live in Canada. If you have children or grandchildren that are Canadian citizens or permanent residents, then they can always assist you if they meet the minimum criteria to get a super visa for Canada. So that will allow you to spend 5 years at a time in Canada. After you leave Canada, you can seek re-entry for another 5 years as long as you meet the requirements. But again, that is a temporary status. It's not permanent residency. When the programs are open for applications, if you have a child or a grandchild who is a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, then they can enter the lottery system. That's how it exists at this time. So they can enter the lottery for a chance to sponsor you for permanent residency. And then once you get the permanent residency, if you meet your requirements, then later on you can apply for citizenship. The only other option for people with the financial means who are looking at living in Canada, but they don't necessarily want to work or need to work, there's the Investors Program for Quebec, but that would require a high minimum net worth. You would have to be willing to invest a certain amount of funds into the province. You would also have to have a minimum level of French. It is something that you could learn if you were really interested in the program. And it does require you to have some management experience. So you would have to have qualifying work experience, but it doesn't actually require that you work in Canada. So if you want to learn more about the investor option, then you can just click the link above. We've done an article about that program that you can take a look at. But as it stands right now, those would be the only options for people who want to move to Canada or spend extended periods of time in Canada and they don't need to work or want to work. But there is no visa currently that allows you just to move to Canada, buy a property, and hang out. The other thing to keep in mind is unless you are a permanent resident or a citizen, there are many parts of Canada that foreigners cannot buy property in Canada right now. You have to have status in order to do so. And if you want to read more about those restrictions, I've pasted the applicable legislation in the links below. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest Canadian immigration news and updates.